What's up everybody, it's Connor from T-sportline. Today we're going to be installing our 40-inch curved light bar on our Tesla Cybertruck. This bar is great for retaining all of that factory range, but still being able to light up the trails at night. This bar is going to go in our lower grille on the front of our Cybertruck, and it's only held in by a couple of brackets and a handful of bolts, making this a very simple and easy install to do by yourself in your driveway. Let's get to it. Here before me, I have all of the items that will come in your 40-inch light bar kit. For starters, you're going to get your 40-inch curved light bar. Is already going to have your cable as well as a DT connector on the end of it. You'll have a couple of mounting brackets, as well as a couple of long cap head bolts, as well as a couple of shorter cap head bolts, 6 fender washers and 2 cam washers, along with 2 chrome washers and 2 chrome lock washers, a DT connector pigtail, and a collection of solder joints have been provided. We recommend you use the green solder joints. Tools for this install will be a 3/8 ratchet with a 3-inch extension and a 10mm socket, along with a pair of wire strippers, a trim tool, and a 5mm Allen. A heat gun or hair dryer is also useful. We recommend thread locker of some kind. I've got medium strength blue here. This seems to work best for our purpose. First thing we're going to do is remove these trim covers that go by our front tow hooks. You should be able to take your trim tool and push it just in the side here. You'll hear a click. You'll do that top and bottom. You can fish your tow hook covers out of the way. These covers are going to reveal a 10mm bolt down here. We're going to go ahead and remove this as well, and we'll do this on both sides of the front bumper. Next, I'm going to take my 10mm socket with the 3-inch extension, and I'm going to remove the 10mm bolt that we just revealed by removing that trim panel. And we'll set this bolt aside. We will not be reusing this. Now that we have our 10mm head bolt out, we can go ahead and grab our light bar bracket. Now you're going to want this triangular side facing up, and you want the oval slot facing towards the center of the car. This is where our light bar is going to mount to. So we're going to go ahead and take this piece and slot it on over our tow hook, just like this. Now you're going to take your long button head bolt with one of the fender washers, and we're going to go ahead and put it in this bottom hole and thread that in to where we pulled that 10mm bolt out of. And we do recommend using a bit of thread locker on these bolts. We have noticed that blue thread locker seems to work best. Now I'm going to toss it over to Cody. He'll show you how to remove all of your frunk plastics, as well as how to tap into that frunk power feed connector.
Let's talk about the tools we're going to need for this installation. Okay, we'll need a 13, an 11, and a 10mm socket. We'll need 2 10mm wrenches, or one would be fine along with the socket. We'll also need some wire cutters, wire strippers. A small pry tool will be handy. You can use a flathead if you need to. We're also going to use a medium size, which is a number 2 Phillips head screwdriver, and a smaller, in this case 0 Phillips head screwdriver, along with a medium 3/16 flathead and a small detail flathead. Lastly, we'll need a small heat gun to use with our solder joints. Let's start with removing the frunk liner. That's going to expose the upfitter wires that are beneath here, the power feed wires that are going to end up powering our charger. So first step here is we're going to take off this cowl cover. Now I've already done that. Basically just pop it right out. Next step is to remove these bumpers on either side. There's one on the driver's side. It's basically just a quarter turn, and it slides right out. Same thing over here on the passenger side. Quarter turn, but this one turns the opposite direction. And we pop right out. Next, we're gonna remove the cover off of our washer fluid tank. Set that aside. And finally, we're gonna expose the bolts that hold the cover in. So using a small pry tool, maybe a screwdriver, there's a cover panel on either side of your frunk. So use this pry tool, take this cover off. That's gonna expose the 2 bolts on either side, 4 total. Next, we're gonna remove those 4 bolts that are holding the frunk down. And the last step is to remove 2 of the same bolts that are on the back side of the frunk, one right here and the other here. So come in, same 11mm socket, pop that screw out, and same thing on that side. With all those bolts out, this frunk is ready to lift out. It simply just pops right off. The only thing that we need to be careful of as we're popping out is there is a connector on the back side of this button here. So don't pull it too far out. This is the connector. You want to make sure you disconnect here. And that releases the entire frunk to come out. Okay, got it off. Now I can pull this all the way out and set it to the side. Okay, first we're going to take our red and black wires. We'll strip off the ends of them to expose the wire underneath the insulation. Next, bring our connector up to the wires from the truck. We're going to line up the red wire from the connector with the red and blue wire from the truck, and the black wire from the connector with the black and blue wire from the truck. We're also going to use these heat shrink solder joints to connect the 2 together. To do this, slide the heat shrink solder joint over the wire, push the 2 wires together until the inner copper colored and silver color ends of the wires pass each other. Next, we want to align the solder joint within the splice connector over the exposed wire so that when we heat this wire up, that solder is actually going to melt into the exposed wire itself and create a soldered joint. Now we'll bring our heat gun in, and we're going to have to get this pretty warm. What we want to do is watch until the solder joint in the middle actually melts and flows into the exposed wire. It's really important that we get this hot enough that the solder fully melts and wicks into the exposed wire. This could take a minute or 2 to do. Watch carefully and wait until the solder actually flows into the wire. At first, the solder will start to soften. You'll see it change shape a bit. Keep going until the solder flows into the wire. Once the solder is fully softened, we'll move our heat guns to either side of the heat shrink connector. We want to shrink both ends. So you'll see that there's a small red strip within the heat shrink end. That's actually going to seal off the wire and make this a weatherproof connection to the wire insulation. So make sure you get the full length of the connector hot so that it shrinks all the way down. Next, we're going to move on to the negative side. So again, we'll take the black and blue wire from the vehicle and the black wire from our connector. So just like before, heat up the joint. We're going to have to apply quite a bit of heat until the solder fully melts and wicks into the wires and creates that strong joint. Then heat up either end of the heat shrink connector so that it seals off. With the new connector added to our vehicle, the next thing we'll do is take this harness out of our wiring kit and plug it in.
So now with our brackets in place, I've gone ahead and set our light bar up into the grill. I have taken the cable and fished it through the top of the tow hook and then up into the bumper here and tucked the wire back between our bracket and our tow hook. Next, we're going to take our silver cap head bolts and put one of our fender washers on. Next, we're going to add our cam washer and then one additional fender washer as so. Now, it's important to note when installing our bolt assembly here that the tiny hole faces towards the inside of the car when we get the bolt started. This cam washer will be used to provide a little bit of preload to the light bar to help support the bar vertically. We'll make sure it's like that on both sides before tightening down fully. And now with both sides in, we can go ahead, get this down snug. We do want to add a little bit of preload, so we're gonna try and move that cam as far up as we can now that it's in. And then we can tighten these bolts down, just like that. With our light bar fully mounted, we're going to go ahead and tidy up our wiring. Take the harness we pushed into our tow hook earlier and run that up the side of the radiator between the radiator and the frame rail and plug that into the connector we attached to our front power feed harness earlier. With that all finished up, we can put our front plastics back together and go ahead and test our light bar. Our light bar is going to be hooked up to our front power feed slider within our central computer. We're going to click our car icon on the left, then click outlets and mods, and this front power feed slider at the top will control that light bar to turn it on or off. That's gonna wrap it up for our install today. If you like what you see, do leave a like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, leave those in the comments section down below. Don't forget to check us out at tsportline.com.